one of the big things that we're kind of interested in this week is the rumors that there's been pretty major reshoots to Superman, James Gunn's Superman, in light of poor test screenings.
Really?
And not only that, they've apparently cut 25 minutes from the movie. So this is the rumors that is going around. It says here, what's it? Sources close to the production say the film received a mixed reception at earlier test screenings, triggering a cascade of changes. Gunn's original cut apparently leaned heavier on humor, something the execs weren't entirely sold on. In response, several comedic beats were cut from the movie, trimming down both the tone and the runtime. The film's editors were also removed, apparently, leading to a reworking with the film's structure. It also says, it's been a course correction. Altogether, about 25 minutes of footage have been trimmed from earlier versions, giving the film a leaner feel. The adjustments hint that a studio is anxious to get it right, especially with this being the first major installment of the rebooted DC universe.
Superman 2, I think, runs at 129 minutes. Superman 1, 127. Thereabouts, so like 2 hours 7, 2 hours 9. And I heard this is at 2:2 just now, and that was music to my ears. Like, I'm so fed up with 3 hour family movies. It's like, I mean, The Godfather's 2 hours and 30 minutes or something like that. Like, we don't need superhero films to be 3 hours long. I genuinely now go for a walk during a 3 hour superhero movie. I just go and I look at the posters and things and then come back.
Well, dude, watching an hour and a half movie can be shocking these days. You're like, oh, it's over. All right, yeah.
There's some. Because like a movie is presuming upon your time, right? With every minute that passes, it's wasting your time potentially. And so, like the writers and the filmmakers need to think like, is this necessary? And is this going to work for us? Because even from a financial point of view, it benefits them to have shorter films. They can get more screenings in per day. Like that's all good stuff. And it should be as long as it needs to be, but no longer. And I think that's the problem that they run into now, bloat.
I think you should need to go and see like the UN or something like that if you're making an action movie that's more than 2 hours, 10 minutes. I think you need to actually go and speak to prime ministers and presidents and get permission.
Yeah.
Beyond 2 hours, 10 minutes. That's perfect. Yeah.
Well, what's more interesting, though, about this is not just the cut in runtime. Like, taking 25 minutes of footage out of the film is quite a cut. But also the fact that it leans so heavily into humor, which I think maybe people were worried about with James Gunn being on board, because we want, and I'm just I'm kind of speaking for everyone here. I think with the Superman movie, you want sincerity, you want earnestness. You don't necessarily want like ironic, self-aware humor, and that's
see, to be fair though, because James Gunn is a really good filmmaker, right? I mean, he's a brilliant filmmaker. So, and I know that. It's like, do you remember when Peter Capaldi was cast as Doctor Who? And everybody was kind of like, oh my God, he's going to be swearing as Doctor Who. And they were like, no, that's when he was playing Malcolm Tucker. It's okay, And he's a very versatile actor. And I think James Gunn is a brilliant filmmaker, So I think he knows the tone. The humor will be different than Superman. Because remember, Donner's Superman's really funny. It's got lots of really funny little moments, isn't it? So I have a feeling the humor in Superman is going to be more like that than Guardians. That's my guess, because he's so good at what he does.
I would hope so. It's just going to be. I don't know. The atmosphere around the movie is kind of a weird one, and I honestly can't tell what people are hoping for with this film. Like, it genuinely feels like some people want it to fail. And I don't know if it's just because they don't necessarily love James Gunn. I don't know if it's because there's still Snyder fans out there who are kind of angry about like the change of direction with DC, or I don't know if it's just, some people kind of just want the superhero genre to stop now. But it feels like there's a bit of a mixed atmosphere around this movie. And I can't quite work out what people are feeling towards it. The trailers are a bit of an odd one. The latest one opened with like an interview between Lois Lane and
that was weird.
Yeah, and it led to just a strange atmosphere around this movie.
Yeah,
I think it's the politics that led up to it, and then it's the corporate politics. It was getting rid of his first move was getting rid of Henry Cavill, which fine. If you're gonna like do clean slate and you're just gonna recast everybody, I think people would eventually understand that. But now you're bringing in, John Cena and his wife and other stuff. So there's people who are being carried over from the Snyderverse. Now they might be, Jason Momoa is going to be playing. I'm blanking. Jason Momoa is going to be in it. Yeah, Lobo. God, my brain's farting today. But yeah, it's been that. It's been the Snyder fans. It's DC fans. That's just kind of how they are. Plus, this is the fifth like major thing. Counting, if you go back to TV, it's more. But redoing of Superman. And yeah, this is going to be dissected online. I think that's pretty normal. But it's been kind of the worst marketing campaign I've seen. I think the last trailer was fine. I think Perry did a better version of it personally. But I just don't think it's swept everybody off its feet. And this thing, they basically called their shot with it. They ended the DCEU, the second version of the DCU after they got rid of Snyder. And then they bring James Gunn in. And it's been all about James Gunn. It's James Gunn. He's putting himself on variant covers of comics. He's animating himself into his creature commandos. It doesn't, I don't know. It feels like the focus is on him and not Superman. No, it is. The focus is on him and not Superman. It doesn't feel that way. That's the way it is. So he's kind of brought it on himself.
Yeah, he's very ego-driven. Ego driven with the way he's gone with this whole thing. It's all about him because I think that's actually a way to deflect from the fact that the Cavill thing happened. All these recastings, everything's restarting. If it's all on him, it takes away from the actors being attacked because Corn Sweat was getting annihilated because he wasn't Cavill. So it might be a smart tactic to actually bring it all to, the whatever you want to call him, the director. He's the director, but like the figurehead for the whole thing might actually be smart that they're bringing it toward him.
See, I think what happened with Superman over the last 30 years is it's been so beholden to the Christopher Reeve image of Superman. He's always measured against Christopher Reeve. And that's, Superman's my favorite movie of all time. Like I've told people, I own the cat stuffed that Superman rescued from the tree. I own Christopher Reeve's cape.
That's brilliant.
Superman's like my favorite thing. But I do think it's really interesting what he's doing here. And I think he's doing something you wouldn't even begin to compare with Christopher Reeve. I've got a feeling his Superman seems really blue collar, and it really intrigued me. Like he only got like a couple of lines as Superman in that trailer, but that bit where he just sounds like a kind of regular guy. He's like a farmer who's come to the big city, and he's just got these Jimmy Stewart 1940s principles, and is just bringing a bit of wholesomeness to the big city. He's doing something different here, and I think you needed an actor that could pull that off. And Corn Sweat's a Juilliard-trained actor. He's going to pull off a Clark Kent, I think, that's going to be at least as good as Christopher Reeves. This is a performance he's doing, where he's got that big, weird on his hips kind of walk and the goofy hair and everything. I think we're going to see something really special here. It's a big swing. He might not pull this off, but I think we might be looking at the best performance of Superman we've ever had. I think this could be amazing. I could be completely wrong, but I've got a feeling there's something special being cooked here.
He's definitely leaning into the Silver Age. You talked about that yesterday, Mark.
Which I love. My Superman is...
and that's something nobody's really done.
Yeah.
So
the technology was there for it. Now you can have the Bottle City of Kandor. You can have Superman going to other planets. This would have been so hard to pull off in the 80s and the 70s, but now we're ready for this. I don't know. It could be a film that families absolutely love and it makes over $1 billion, or it's middle-aged men like me who love it because it's the Superman we grew up with. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it definitely incorporates elements that I think a lot of general audiences won't be familiar with, like Crypto, the super dog, and the Fortress of Solitude with the robotic. What do you even call them? Like they're his
Superman robots. These Superman robots.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Which, if you're familiar with the comics, I'm sure it all makes perfect sense. But like for general audiences, they'll be like, "What the hell are these things?" Like, I don't get what this is doing. And it's like you say, I think they're taking a bit of they're really swinging for the fences with this one in terms of what they incorporate from the comic book version of Superman. I just don't know if it'll be received as well as they're hoping. And that's just a total guess on my part. I don't know. but I know that like people are super divided over the dog, for example.
Oh my god, I love the dog. I mean, see my kids. That's the only reason they're interested in the film. I've got to say, in the trailer they kind of perked up. I said, "Oh, it's the Superman trailer." My kids were like, "Dad, stop making us watch things you like," you know. And then they saw the dog, and they absolutely loved the dog.
No, I mean it's fair enough. Like, I mean, a dog with superpowers and a cape on. It's like it's cute. It's definitely cute. It's just like I don't know how it gels with having a supposedly serious take on Superman, or at least like a supposedly serious movie with real stakes and like real villains. Like it opens with him, crashing out into the snow and like being beaten within an inch of his life, and so that's serious stuff. Then a dog comes in and rescues him. I don't know. It's an interesting tonal mix, I suppose.
Well, here's two thoughts, right? What he's doing is, like Lord of the Rings leaned into those beautiful paintings from the 70s and all that, and just it tapped right into absolute classic Lord of the Rings, and everybody was like, okay, this is perfect. Like there's nothing wrong with these movies at all. Everybody's happy, It's the best version of Lord of the Rings. Superman's most popular periods is 1955 to about 1968. Now, globally, that's when Superman was at its peak in terms of sales. And he's leaning into that. And I think that's quite interesting because there was something about that period that really resonated with the public. Now, the flip side of that is I think my wife's a really good barometer because unlike me, she's a normal person, right? She's like a normal person who's you're just a mainstream regular person who isn't interested in all the niche things I'm interested in, really, right? And she'll go and see Wolverine. She's like, yeah, it's pretty cool because it's kind of like a world she understands. It's not that different from the real world. It's kind of like just a regular movie. James Mangold makes a good film, or Bryan Singer makes a good film, whatever. But see, when she sees super dogs and stuff, robots and all that, she's like, yeah, you're going with your friends to see this one, and that's my worry, because the 4-quadrant aspect of superhero films for the last 25 years is the people who didn't like this stuff were enchanted by it. And that's the big gamble here. It might just be for guys like us, as opposed to that mainstream 4-quadrant audience again.
That's
I think
tricky
that's
as well.
The two trailers, the stark contrast between the first trailer and the second trailer is trying to elicit a response in the audience. So the first trailer, starts with a sort of crash into the floor and then the dog, but kids respond quite well to that, to be fair. Like it grabs their attention quickly and then they see a CGI puppy dog. So I think kids actually quite like that. But with and that was a very kiddie-esque trailer, it was bright lights, bright colors, big giant kaiju. It's very, very kiddie-esque, very kid-focused. Now the second trailer starts with a very serious conversation, which I think is intended marketing-wise to resonate more with adults. I think that's what they've done with their marketing. I could be wrong, obviously, but I think that their aim is to try to hit a 4-quadrant film. Whether they do it or not, who bloody knows? I think what you're feeling from the general... So we're not a good barometer for whether a film's going to do massively well all the time, because there'll be a bunch of normies that just know Superman as a title and will go, yep, I'll go watch that because it's Superman. And the normies will be the ones that will turn up, I think, for this over the people that are, a bit more informed and a bit more sort of trepidatious with respect to all of this. There's an element of, I say that, I think normies will turn up, but I also think that there's a huge risk of them not turning up, because I think what we've experienced recently is a very real burnout from superhero and comic book movies as a whole. And there's a high sense of apathy that's set in with these products. Now, what we're going to find out is whether it's Marvel fatigue and people are just sick to death of Marvel and Disney and that world. And this could reignite that whole genre of film, or we'll find out that it is just comic book movies in general that people are like, yeah, no, I'm done on this now, because they run their course like everything in film has. Westerns run their course. We may be seeing the end of the comic book movie cycle for a while.
I don't know about the comic book movie, because comic books is like novels. It's a medium as opposed to a genre. So Max Allan Collins' Road to Perdition, is a comic book movie. So I feel as if comic book movies are over the hump now and they're in Hollywood and it's like they're not going away. It's an art form now, But superhero
movies,
kind of
budgets, though, do you think?
What's that?
Do you think with those kind of budgets? I mean, Thunderbolts lost 100
sorry, you're misunderstanding. I mean, comic book movies and superhero movies are distinct, though. So a comic book could be a detective thing. One Piece.
Right. Sorry. Yeah. I mean more superheroes.
But
It's a misnomer.
Yeah, for sure, superhero movies are like. Look at the lineup. You used to go to San Diego and you'd see Marvel's next 18 projects on a screen, and now they show you 3. Because so much is dependent on how Fantastic Four does. As much as people pretend otherwise, Superman and Fantastic Four are absolutely pivotal. Their box office in terms of what they greenlight next. Everything else is up in the air until the box office comes in this, because this is the canary in the coal mine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this before, where July is like this 3-way battle between Superman, Fantastic Four, and Jurassic World. And honestly, like, my money's on Jurassic World in terms of box office takings.
I think so too.
But if I had to pick between these two movies, I'd probably bet on Superman over Fantastic Four, because one, I think it's got more resonance with normies, and two, as Mr. H was hinting at there, I think Marvel fatigue is more prevalent than superhero fatigue in general. I think that both of them have, definitely a place, but I think people are particularly getting tired of the Marvel formula, whereas they might be more inclined to give Superman under a new, leadership with James Gunn more of an opportunity than they would the Fantastic Four. So
Pedro Pascal fatigue as well. Don't forget about the Pedro Pascal
100%. Yeah.